In the deep, oppressive darkness of a cave, a voice quietly keeps count of the fallen. 94 are down, and now, another makes 95. A blade flashes through the gloom. A young warrior cleaves a soft blue creature in two. He stands alone in this cavern, a place known as Dungeon Number 777. But a more fitting name hangs in the air: the Unlucky Hole. A single, brilliant beam of light pierces the ceiling, illuminating him as he stands as a solitary figure in this vast, silent world. This place is a simple, single-layer cave that appeared 7 years after mysterious dungeons began to manifest all over the earth. The warrior knows that the only creatures to be found in this desolate place are the ones he has been hunting relentlessly. A small, round, blue creature wobbles back and forth. It is a blue slime, the weakest monster imaginable. He watches it with a practiced eye, knowing these creatures are completely harmless because they possess no magical abilities whatsoever. With another swift, effortless strike, he cuts down a slime, noting that their weakness to physical attacks is almost comical. That's 97. All that remains is a tiny, sparkling magic stone, a meager reward for a monster so weak that even a child could defeat it. The story flashes back to a time of worldwide panic, when the first dungeons appeared and unleashed an age of chaos upon an unprepared Earth. 7 years later, humanity has adapted and regained control, allowing nations to finally begin a thorough investigation of each mysterious dungeon. Dungeon 77, with its lucky-sounding number, initially drew significant attention for its bizarre setup. No boss, just one monster type, and a simple layout. Hopeful adventurers and dedicated researchers once flocked here, certain that some profound secret or incredible treasure was hidden within its depths. But now, it stands as a ghost town, a completely unpopular and forgotten dungeon whose grand entrance sees no visitors. And yet, this young warrior has been coming to this lonely place every single day for 3 years, ever since he graduated, the desolate view becoming achingly familiar. He reveals the sad truth behind his unwavering dedication. The pathetically weak slime is the only monster in the world he can actually defeat. Since the dungeons appeared, every human gained the ability to see their own status, and he now gazes at the floating screen that defines his existence. The screen introduces him as Amachi Shuta, age 21, displaying his stats across 7 categories: strength, dexterity, endurance, agility, magic, intelligence, and lastly, luck. While people can grow stronger through training, the most significant way to improve is by defeating monsters, which raises their level and grants them precious points to boost their stats. He defeats his 98th slime, knowing that earning these special points, or SP, is the fundamental key to ever becoming stronger. However, there is one stat that stands apart from the rest, a strange attribute called luck that cannot be increased by leveling up, only by spending those valuable SP. A painful memory surfaces of a younger Shouta, his eyes wide with utter shock as he first lays eyes on his own status screen. At 15, his numbers were horrifyingly low, with most of his stats at a pitiful 2 points, and his gains per level were just a fraction of what everyone else received. He was left far behind, a lonely figure watching as his peers grew powerful while he remained hopelessly stuck at the bottom. With a powerful shout fueled by years of frustration, he strikes down the 99th slime in a single, furious blow. He lets out a long sigh, wiping the sweat from his brow as he admits to himself that the final one always makes him nervous. The harsh reality of his weakness is a constant weight on his mind. While others gain up to 5 points per level, his stats have only ever increased by 1. He was so weak he couldn't even defeat a goblin, the next monster up from a slime, leaving him with no choice but to grind here over and over again. But now, with renewed purpose, his eyes light up as he spots his next target, excitedly proclaiming that this is the 100th one. He knows better than anyone that he stands no chance against others at his level, a frustrating truth he faces no matter how hard he tries. In the 7 years since the dungeon outbreak, a great deal of information about how stats and growth work has come to light. But one particular piece of news he read years ago utterly crushed his spirit, a memory of pure shock as he stared at the devastating report. The report stated an unchangeable rule of this new world. A person's growth potential is set from the beginning and can never be raised higher. He clenches his fists, desperately telling himself to stay calm and not to panic. But his heart pounds with anxiety. He stares at the simple slime before him, his mind racing. This isn't just a monster, but a symbol of the dead-end future he feels trapped in. This is an enemy he can never run from, a challenge he must face every single day. The memory of learning that cruel truth still stings, a moment where he felt his entire world collapse around him. His dream of becoming a respected adventurer suddenly felt like a hopeless fantasy as he spent his nights desperately searching for any possible way out. He remembers collapsing in despair, surrounded by scattered research papers, wondering who would ever give a job to someone as weak as him. In this new world, where a person's status has become the ultimate measure of their worth, his low numbers made him feel utterly useless. But he refused to surrender to despair, deciding that leveling up, no matter how slowly, was his only possible path to escape his grim situation. With that desperate resolve, he returned to the only place he could, grinding slimes day after day, hoping for a miracle. And then, after slaying countless thousands of them, he finally noticed something strange, something completely unexpected. He had stumbled upon a hidden secret, a mystery buried deep within this forgotten, abandoned dungeon. With a final, triumphant swing of his sword, he defeats the 100th slime in a row, shouting in victory as he anticipates what's to come. He knows that by completing this specific ritual, there is an extremely small chance that something truly special will occur. He closes his eyes, his hands trembling as he grips his sword, praying that all his tireless effort will finally pay off. He yells into the cavern, his voice echoing off the stone walls as he begs for the secret to reveal itself once more. Suddenly, a new slime appears with a soft sound, this one looking distinctly different from all the others. Shouta's face explodes into a wide, joyous grin as he cheers, finally seeing the rare monster he calls the light blue slime. This creature is an anomaly, a monster that doesn't officially exist in any of the known adventurer guides. When he first discovered it, he scoured every monster encyclopedia he could find but came up with absolutely no mention of it anywhere. So, he took it upon himself to give it a name, deciding on the simple and direct, light blue slime. Once he figured out the trick to making it appear, he made a huge gamble, pouring all his special points into the stat everyone else considered useless, luck. He understood that raising his luck wouldn't make him stronger in a fight, unlike other stats that offered small but tangible benefits to his combat abilities. But he discovered something incredible. The more he raised his luck, the more frequently the mysterious light blue slime would appear. A sly grin spreads across his face as he considers the immense value of this secret, knowing it could make even a weakling like him famous overnight. But he quickly shakes the thought away, shouting that he can't and won't reveal it, covering his ears to block out the temptation of fame and fortune. He knows exactly what would happen if he shared his discovery. This precious, secret hunting spot would be stolen from him in an instant. He absolutely cannot let that happen, not after coming this far, and he stands ready with his sword to protect what he's earned. Ever since his luck reached its current high level, he's been seeing the light blue slime 3 out of 5 times he completes his 100-kill routine. But this time, something is different, and he can only let out a small, surprised, "Oh!" A new creature materializes, shining brightly before him, and he realizes with a jolt that it's a green slime. He begins to understand there's another layer to this secret. The green slime seems to have a chance to appear only after he defeats a light blue one. A bead of sweat drips down his face as a thrilling possibility enters his mind. He has to know just how deep this secret goes. This dungeon, a place abandoned by everyone else, has become his sanctuary, and he feels a fierce determination to be the one to uncover its final truth. A confident, determined smile spreads across his face as he declares that he will be the one to solve this dumbest mystery. He grips his sword, his eyes blazing with purpose, vowing to be the first and to let no one else steal this discovery from him as he prepares to continue. He soon uncovers another layer. After defeating a green slime, there's a small chance of encountering the even rarer white slime. And after the white slime, he discovers the existence of the blazing hot red slime, another step in the mysterious chain. The sequence continues, with an even smaller chance of a purple slime appearing after a red one is defeated. But the rarest of them all is the black slime, which only has a minuscule chance of spawning after a purple slime is taken down. Shouta whispers to himself that it's been a full half a year since he last saw a black slime, the long wait only heightening his anticipation. He smiles, a mix of excitement and nervousness washing over him as he prepares for this rare opportunity. This will be the 7th black slime he has ever encountered in his life, and he takes a deep breath, praying for what comes next. He slashes through the black slime and anxiously calls out into the empty space, demanding the next monster to show itself. A massive cloud of dark, thick smoke explodes outward from where the slime was, completely enveloping him. He coughs, his eyes watering from the dense smoke as he struggles to see what's happening around him. As the smoke finally begins to clear, he stares in utter disbelief at the shimmering sight materializing before him. He cautiously steps forward, his eyes fixed on a beautiful, pulsating light, barely able to speak. A massive slime, glowing with all the colors of the rainbow, floats before him, and he exclaims in awe at its incredible size. He realizes that a monster like this, one that shines with every color imaginable, has never been recorded or seen before. His mind races with the implications of his find. This isn't just a discovery, it's the discovery of the century. He knows that extremely rare monsters are known to flee quickly, and he needs to act fast before it disappears. He shouts that he won't let it get away, charging forward with his sword raised high, ready to strike. He defeats the magnificent creature with a single clean hit, remarking that it seems all slimes, no matter how rare, have no resistance at all. A glowing, star-shaped orb drops from the defeated slime and lands on the ground with a soft thud. Shouta stares at the item, his mind completely blank with surprise, unable to comprehend what he's seeing. Then, a wave of realization washes over him as he shouts in astonishment, recognizing the legendary item as a skill orb. His face beams with pure, unadulterated joy as he confirms that what he holds in his hand is actually real. He knows that skill orbs are unbelievably rare items, only found in the most difficult dungeons or dropped by the most powerful monsters, granting a new skill to whoever uses one. Even 10 years after dungeons first appeared, their value hasn't changed, and he knows that selling this orb could make him unimaginably rich. But he clenches his fist, his eyes shining with pride, declaring that he won't give it to anyone. For this is the ultimate reward for all his solitary hard work. A screen appears, asking if he wants to use the orb, and without a single moment of hesitation, he shouts his command to use it. The screen flashes brightly, announcing his newly acquired skill, Level Gotcha. He can only stare, completely bewildered by the strange name. He repeats the words to himself, Level Gotcha, trying to make sense of the skill displayed before him. He has never seen or heard of a skill with such a bizarre name, and the screen now prompts him, asking if he wants to use it. He admits to himself that he barely knows what a gotcha is, other than something from video games and vending machines. With a determined look, he decides there's only one way to find out what this mysterious skill does, and boldly chooses to use it. Shuta's eyes go wide with disbelief. He cannot believe what just happened. A huge gachapon machine materializes from nothing, its sign promising amazing prizes in exchange for his hard-earned levels. The machine offers two choices: a single pull for 1 level that guarantees a rare item, or a 10 pull for 10 levels that guarantees a super rare. He pats the machine, confirming it's solid, and mutters that it really is a gacha, though it seems too small to hold 100 items. His expression turns serious as he contemplates the strange and powerful new ability he has just unlocked. In the 10 years since dungeons appeared, skills and magic have advanced science in unbelievable ways, but this level gotcha is unlike anything ever recorded. He decides that overthinking it is pointless. He needs to see for himself what incredible power it holds. Skills already defy common sense, so he knows the only way to understand this one is to take a leap of faith and try it. He hesitates for a moment, weighing his two options and wondering which path he should take. He nervously considers his current level of 31. a worried thought crossing his mind that he surely couldn't drop all the way to level 1. He stares at the buttons, knowing that the 3 years of relentless grinding it took to get here could all vanish in an instant. But then he scoffs, a confident smirk spreading across his face as he questions the odds of getting a top-tier prize from a single spin. He decides there is no way he'll risk it on a single pull, his conviction solidifying. Yet, a sliver of doubt remains. With no drop rates listed, this is a huge gamble, and he can't afford to be reckless. But after everything he's been through to get here, he knows he can't just walk away without finding out. A wide, excited grin spreads across his face as he decides that if he's going to risk his levels, he might as well go big. He firmly presses his hand on the 10-pull gotcha button, committing to his choice. The machine rumbles to life, rattling and clinking as it prepares to dispense his prizes. He shouts in excitement as 10 small capsules pop out and fall to the ground before him. A pile of two-toned capsules lies at his feet, and he wonders which ones hold the rare and super rare items. He notices that most of the capsules are blue, so he decides to start by opening one of the more common ones. He cracks it open and is shocked to find a rare power boost item that grants a permanent +3 to his strength. He can't believe his eyes, shouting in astonishment at an item that can permanently increase a person's stats. He knows that items like these are incredibly valuable, usually found in high-level dungeons and sold for fortunes at auctions. Yet, here in this low-level dungeon with no treasure chests, he has found something that should be impossible to obtain. With renewed excitement, he decides to open the rest of the capsules to see what other treasures await him. He opens the remaining blue capsules, revealing a variety of powerful stat-boosting items. He is surprised to find that even within the rare rank, some items grant a +3 boost, while others offer a more powerful +5. He remembers seeing items like these +5 boosts selling for astronomical prices on the adventurer market. He is stunned that all of these incredibly valuable items are considered nothing more than the rare prizes from this gacha. He looks at the 3 capsules left, his heart pounding as he realizes what they must be. He picks one up, knowing it must contain one of the guaranteed super rare items. His hands tremble with anticipation as he cracks it open, wondering what amazing prize is hidden inside. His eyes widen in pure shock as he stares at the contents, completely speechless. 3 unbelievable prizes materialize before him: a skill orb for appraisal, a massive +10 power boost, and another new skill, physical enhancement. He laughs, a blush spreading across his face as he tries to process the sheer insanity of what just happened. Surrounded by his glowing new treasures, he decides there's no reason to wait and prepares to use them all immediately. He eagerly pulls up his status board to check his new stats, but what he sees only confuses him more. His main stats have decreased by 10 from spending his levels, but his luck, which he raised with SP, has remained unchanged. He scratches his head, completely baffled by the strange mechanics of this skill, wondering what on earth is going on. He decides not to question his good fortune, relieved that he didn't lose the stats he worked so hard to build up. A screen prompts him to use all his new items, and with a massive, triumphant grin, he enthusiastically accepts. His status screen explodes with light as his stats skyrocket to new heights, and he struggles to contain his overwhelming excitement. He laughs in disbelief, still unable to comprehend the incredible power he has just obtained. He pats the gacha machine, declaring that this skill is completely broken in the best way possible. He realizes he still has 21 levels left, enough for 2 more 10 pulls, and his eyes gleam with excitement as he prepares to roll again. The machine rattles and clinks once more, dispensing a huge pile of capsules, 16 blue rares and an incredible 4 red super rares. He can barely contain his joy, his mind racing with the possibilities of what amazing new items he might get this time. He opens the new SR capsules and is surprised to find skills he already owns, wondering why he received duplicates. His status screen updates again, showing his new, even more ridiculously powerful stats. He notices something incredible. His physical enhancement skill has now leveled up to level 2. He realizes with a jolt that getting the same skill again causes it to stack and become even more powerful. He recalls seeing information online about high-level players who had skills with levels listed next to them. Standing alone in the dungeon, he is in awe of the fact that he has gained such unbelievable power while still technically being level 1. He throws a peace sign, overjoyed at the thought that he is probably the only level 1 in the entire world with stats this high. He throws his arms up in celebration, shouting into the empty cavern about how completely insane and crazy his situation has become. He looks at the gacha machine, now fully understanding the phenomenal world-breaking power it holds. He notices the display now shows only 70 items left, and a new question enters his mind. He wonders if the machine will refresh its contents once he uses up all the pulls. A more worrying thought strikes him. Maybe once the machine is empty, it's gone for good. A screen appears, giving him the option to end the level gacha, but also noting that it can be used again, making him wonder if there is a way to refill it. He considers the possibility of needing another skill orb, a thought that quickly sobers his excitement. The memory of the 3 long, grueling years it took him to find the first orb flashes through his mind. He decides to push the worry aside for now, knowing there's no guarantee he'll find another one, and turns to leave the dungeon. He resolves to think positively, and to deal with that problem only if and when it arises. For now, with the sun beginning to set, he decides to go hunt a few hundred more slimes. With his newly enhanced abilities, he tears through a group of slimes with unbelievable ease, a wide grin on his face. He ends up slaying not just 100, but a full 300 slimes, feeling no different than when he was a higher level. In fact, thanks to his leveled-up physical enhancement skill, he is able to hunt them even faster than before. The only downside is that his body now moves so quickly that his mind can't keep up, causing him to slam into the cave walls repeatedly. By the end of the day, he has already shot back up to level 8, immediately pouring all his newly earned SP into his luck stat. He now has a solid plan. He will level up, use the gacha, reset to level 1, boost his luck, and repeat the cycle over and over. He also notes that during his massive killing spree, he encountered 2 light blue slimes and 1 green slime. A hopeful smile crosses his face as he realizes that if he continues this cycle, he might just run into another rainbow slime. His bag full of magic stones, he decides to call it a day and head back to the guild. He pauses for a moment, remembering he has to report his activities, and wonders if he should keep his second successful run a secret. He worries that revealing too much could get him into trouble, but then reassures himself that the guild staff probably won't bother checking his level. He leaves the dungeon and walks towards the familiar branch 777 building, hoping his luck holds out. A cheerful girl with a long ponytail peeks out from the doorway of the guild. With a radiant smile, she welcomes him back warmly. He waves back, greeting Aki-san as he enters the quiet guild. This is Aki-san, the acting manager of this remote branch, who handles all the receptionist and administrative work entirely by herself. She gets unusually close to him, asking why he called out to her, and he immediately panics, thinking his secret has been discovered. She winks playfully, teasing him about staring at her ponytail again, much to his confusion. He breathes a sigh of relief, realizing she doesn't know his secret, but now he's caught in a whole new misunderstanding, as Aki blushes from his supposed attention. He thinks to himself that even though she teases him mercilessly, she always greets him with a genuinely lovely smile. He remembers a time when she used to wear her hair down, and he had casually mentioned that a ponytail might suit her, a style she has worn ever since. He wonders if she actually liked his offhand comment, completely oblivious to the real reason behind her change in hairstyle. A gruff voice suddenly interrupts them, complaining about the noise and noting that the slime hunter is back. A tall blonde man with a scar on his face greets Shouta mockingly, calling him Mr. Slime Hunter. Aki immediately jumps to his defense, angrily telling Diamond that Shouta is their branch's top ace, but Diamond just laughs it off. This is Diamond-san, the branch's security guard, a former frontline fighter who took on this role after suffering a serious injury years ago. It's standard procedure to have guards stationed at dungeon entrances to prevent monsters from escaping into the outside world. However, this particular dungeon is located in the middle of nowhere and is only home to the weakest of monsters. That's likely why Damon is the only guard here, as any monsters that did escape would be incredibly easy to handle. Damon quickly makes his exit, leaving Aki to complain that she barely sees him 4 times a week. She figures his lack of motivation probably stems from the fact that there hasn't been a single dungeon break from this location in the last 3 years. Aki lets out a long, weary sigh, clearly frustrated with her lazy co-worker. She complains to Shouta that Diamond is a handful, especially since there are only 2 people working at this entire branch. Shuta's expression suddenly changes as he remembers the real reason he came to the guild today. He asks Aki if she can exchange his day's haul for cash, and she happily agrees, her voice bright as she inquires about how many monsters he managed to take down. He pulls out a massive bag overflowing with magic stones, estimating his total count to be around 500, leaving Aki completely amazed at the insane numbers. As she meticulously counts the pile of stones, she suggests that he might earn significantly more money if he were to venture into a different, more challenging dungeon. She offers him words of encouragement, expressing her belief that he would do just fine in other dungeons and doesn't have to limit himself to this one. Shuta realizes that for years he's been so fixated on his limitations that he has always dismissed her suggestions, believing any other dungeon was out of his league. But now, with his newfound power, things are different. He has finally seen a path forward, and he knows he is ready for a new challenge. He finally agrees, his voice filled with a quiet determination that surprises Aki. He declares that he will give another dungeon a try, his new goal being to use his gacha pulls and boost his luck stat as high as it can possibly go. Aki's eyes widen, sparkling with excitement at his sudden change of heart. She asks if he's serious, completely shocked by his decision, and he confirms with a firm nod. She admits she was so used to him turning her down that she's stunned, he agreed, and she wonders what could have possibly changed his mind. He gives a vague excuse, claiming that hunting only slimes isn't an efficient way to level up, carefully hiding the true, extraordinary reason for his newfound confidence. Aki doesn't press him for more details and instead cheers enthusiastically, telling him how proud she is of his decision. After the appraisal, she informs him he has 322 stones, which comes to a total of 51,520 yen after the dungeon tax, and he signs the paperwork, thanking her. She smiles warmly, insisting that she should be the one thanking him for his hard work. Her genuine kindness makes his heart skip a beat, leaving him momentarily flustered. Aki suggests they exchange contact information through the official Dungeon Network app, thinking it will be useful for his new journey, and he readily agrees. As they trade information, she excitedly says she's going to brag to her little sister, and he jokingly tells her not to misuse his number. He smiles and promises he won't, a new layer of confidence shining in his eyes. He waves goodbye to Aki, knowing that he still needs to figure out the rainbow slime's drop rate, a task that could take years without improving his luck. In that case, he knows that moving forward is his only option. He looks at the letter of introduction Aki gave him, addressed to the receptionist at Branch 525, determined to finally explore the dungeons he once believed were beyond his reach. He shouts in excitement, ready for a new adventure as he heads into an unfamiliar, dense forest. He follows the directions Aki gave him, using his phone to navigate the winding path. The next day, he arrives at a massive, impressive building, amazed at the sheer size of the new guild branch. He walks towards the beginner-friendly 525th branch, a bustling hub of activity that is a stark contrast to the quiet, forgotten branch he calls home. He reflects on the difference. His home dungeon is a natural cave, while this one suddenly appeared out of nowhere in the middle of the land. He remembers there are many more facilities here, including an adventurer shop that isn't part of his own branch. He never expected to be back here, but he takes a deep breath and heads inside, ready to start his next chapter. He pulls out the letter of introduction from Aki, a small piece of paper that feels like a key to his future. He smiles, feeling immense gratitude towards Aki for her help, and prepares to hand the letter to the front desk. But then, an idea sparks in his mind, and a mischievous smile spreads across his face. He recalls that guilds only share officially approved information, which means no one here will know about his recent dramatic change in power. His official record still lists him as level 31, but his true level has dropped to 8, a fact he hopes to keep to himself. He decides that from now on it would be wise to request that his level be kept private. He knows Aki would handle such a request without any fuss, and feeling confident, he walks towards the bustling reception desk. A friendly girl with short, light hair greets him by name, much to his surprise. He is startled for a moment, wondering how she could possibly know who he is. He introduces himself as Shuta from the 777th branch, and she explains that she recognized his name from Aki's letter, welcoming him warmly. His arrival causes a stir among the other adventurers in the lobby, who begin to whisper amongst themselves. One of them asks in surprise if he really said he was from the 777th branch. Another adventurer scoffs, recognizing him as the infamous Slime Hunter, a washout who is only capable of killing the weakest monsters. They openly mock him, questioning how someone so weak could possibly survive in a real dungeon, assuming he's barely scraping by. Shuta clenches his fist, the taunts reminding him of a painful past, but he knows he is no longer the same weak person they think he is. He lets out a frustrated sigh, the memories of past humiliations still stinging. The receptionist leans in and kindly asks him to step into the back room, away from the prying eyes of the other adventurers. He follows her, relieved to escape the noisy and judgmental crowd in the lobby. He finds himself in a luxurious office, a far cry from the simple rooms he's used to, and waits patiently on a plush sofa. He looks around in awe, marveling at how expensive everything looks compared to the rundown gear back at his home branch. The receptionist returns and sincerely apologizes for the rude behavior of the other adventurers in the lobby. She explains that she has heard a lot about him from her sister, and he insists it's not her fault, blaming his own carelessness for his reputation. A sudden realization hits him, and he asks in surprise about her sister, wanting to know her name. She smiles and pulls out her identification, formally introducing herself. The card identifies her as Maki Kutone, the receptionist for the 525th branch, and she reveals that she is Aki's younger sister. She insists that he call her Maki, her cheerful and friendly demeanor putting him at ease. Shuta is completely stunned by this unexpected revelation, his mind reeling from the coincidence. Back at branch 777, Aki sneezes loudly, wondering if Shuta is doing all right, while Diamond muses on how different the two sisters are. After the initial shock, Maki diligently helps Shuta, providing him with all the essential information he needs for Dungeon 525. First, she transfers the map data for the first 3 floors directly to his phone. She then shows him the monster distribution data, highlighting the goblins and killer rabbits he can expect to find. She also sternly explains the rules of the dungeon, emphasizing that stealing another monster is strictly forbidden. He smiles to himself, finding her meddlesome nature so similar to her sister's to be rather endearing. Maki glances at a nearby clock and realizes she has a meeting to attend. She apologizes for cutting their meeting short, but he reassures her it's fine and that he plans to head into the dungeon right away. She offers him a warm, encouraging smile, telling him she'll be cheering for him. He waves goodbye, promising to see her later, his spirits lifted by her kindness. As he walks away, he thinks about how nice she was and decides to take advantage of the local shops to upgrade his gear. He purchases a full set of new iron equipment, including a longsword, light armor, gloves, and greaves. He feels great finally refreshing his gear after a full year, marveling at the impressive amount of money he's made from hunting slimes. He also makes sure to buy a few healing potions, just to be on the safe side in this new, more dangerous environment. While he shops, he overhears other adventurers whispering and gossiping about him. One of them notes his full iron gear, incorrectly assuming he must be at least level 30 to afford it. They mock him, sarcastically calling him Slime Hunter Sama, and assuming his new gear is the best he can afford with his meager income. They laugh about how slimes only drop tiny magic stones, completely underestimating his earnings. They cruelly calculate that he must barely make 1,000 yen a day from his efforts. As he walks away, their laughter follows him, but he remains unfazed, knowing the truth. He remembers a time when that was true, but since boosting his luck, his income has multiplied dozens of times over. He now makes enough to send money home to his family and still has significant savings, likely more than the very people mocking him. He decides the iron set is perfect for now, as he doesn't want to draw any unnecessary or dangerous attention to himself. The receptionist wishes him a safe trip as he registers for entry, and with a firm yes, he heads towards the dungeon's entrance. Inside Dungeon 525, he is immediately struck by the sheer number of adventurers milling about. He reminds himself that this is a popular dungeon, so it's only natural for it to be so crowded. He realizes just how accustomed he's become to the solitude of Dungeon 777, where he has always adventured alone. Just as Maki's map indicated, The first floor is a complex, twisting labyrinth of passages. He observes that most adventurers are sticking to the main, direct path to the second floor, a straightforward strategy he isn't used to. Deciding to avoid the crowds, he takes a less traveled route, heading towards the outer edge of the map. Before long, he finds himself completely alone, the sounds of the other adventurers fading into the distance. He feels a sense of relief wash over him, more comfortable in the familiar quiet and solitude. His eyes narrow as he senses a presence nearby, his instincts on high alert. A small, snarling goblin emerges from the shadows, brandishing a crude iron knife. He observes the creature, noting that it's the first one he's seen in 3 years, yet it looks just as he remembers. But this time, something is different. He feels no trace of the fear that once paralyzed him, and he wonders if goblins were always this weak. He decides to test his new skill and shouts his command to appraise the creature. A screen appears, revealing the goblin to be a simple level 3 monster equipped with an iron knife. He laughs, almost disappointed by how non-threatening its stats are. The goblin seems to sense his confidence, letting out a confused, guttural sound. It finally notices him and charges forward recklessly, its knife raised to strike. He calmly stands his ground, his body tensing as he prepares to meet the attack. With a single, fluid motion, he strikes the goblin down, the creature defeated before it can even reach him. He stands over the fallen monster, a wave of light signifying his victory, still surprised by his own newfound strength. He stares in disbelief, having defeated the goblin with a single hit, just as he would a slime. What? Was that weak? He wonders aloud. The goblin dropped its iron knife and a single tiny magic stone. Shuta laughs to himself, thinking about how much he used to struggle against them back in the day. He kneels to pick up the dropped items. Yeah, this is what I wanted to try out, he thinks, a determined look on his face. He stands up, feeling confident. Good. He's not carrying anything else. I can handle goblins easily now. With a wide grin, he decides to test his appraisal skill further. Appraise. He recalls learning that he can view dungeon information by using the skill on a dungeon wall. He places his hand on the cavern wall, and a screen appears, simply stating the dungeon's name. Dungeon number 525. Good, he murmurs. He chuckles, figuring this is all the information he can get at his current skill level. He wonders if more details will unlock as his appraisal skill improves. A new idea pops into his head. Oh, right. He spots another goblin and wonders what will happen if he defeats 100 monsters in this dungeon, just like he did with the slimes. With a swift movement, he takes down another goblin, his second one, its iron knife clattering to the ground. All right. He continues his hunt, moving through the dungeon with ease, quickly racking up kills. 10th one! Keep it going! He yells, already spotting his 35th target. After a while, he stands in a field of defeated goblins, catching his breath. This should be the 100th. Nothing's happening. He looks around, disappointed. Did it not work? He recalls a rumor that defeating 100 goblins would trigger a level up, and he had hoped his high luck stat of 80 would help. He starts to wonder if the 100 kill bonus was exclusive to slimes, since no rare goblin-related monsters have appeared. He then spots a small rabbit in the distance and considers another possibility. Or maybe... That one's back again, he says, recognizing the creature with a sigh. He remembers that the first floor is also home to a monster called the Killer Rabbit, a white rabbit with a small, sharp horn. He recalls that during his first attempt, after defeating 34 goblins, a killer rabbit had charged at him. He had to take it out, which broke his goblin streak. So it has to be 100 in a row, huh? He realizes, annoyed by the strict rule. He notices that his level has gone up again. Oh, maybe I'll hunt down 2 more goblins and see what happens. He gets caught up in the thrill of the hunt and suddenly realizes, at level 11, I can roll the gotcha. He quickly looks around to make sure the coast is clear. No one's around? He finds a dead-end path. All right, it's a dead end. Should be safe here. He summons the gotcha machine, ready for 10 more rolls. Let's roll the gotcha 10 times, he says, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. He taps the 10-roll gotcha button. The machine lets out a cheerful tra-la-la-la. He wishes he could turn the volume down. He collects the capsules, thinking that of course the machine makes noise, but it's not like he plans on using it in public anyway. He examines his loot. 8 blue R capsules and 2 red SR capsules. He thinks that getting 2 SRs when only one is guaranteed is pretty lucky. He opens one of the SR capsules and finds a strange item labeled M. What's this? A new skill appears on his status screen. Auto mapping. He's ecstatic. A skill. Auto mapping. This is so useful. His stats have increased again, and his luck is now at a staggering 80. He tests his new skill. It records the places he's visited and displays a map, showing monsters as red dots and humans as white dots. Looks like I'm a white dot too, he notes. With the help of his new map, he easily tracks down and defeats 100 goblins in a row. All right, this time I've got goblins. He proudly managed to keep his streak without running into any killer rabbits, thanks to his ability to distinguish their movement patterns on the map. After the 100th kill, a strange green smoke begins to swirl around him. What's that smoke doing? The smoke billows and pushes deeper into the dungeon. Hold on, it's pushing deeper into the dungeon? He quickly follows it. The smoke leads him to a familiar dead end. Isn't that the same place? Isn't this where I rolled the gacha earlier? He wonders, as the green smoke fills the entire area. He struggles to see through the thick haze. Damn, I can't see a thing. Suddenly, a massive clawed hand shoots out from the smoke. Whoa, he exclaims, dodging just in time as the creature lunges at him. As the smoke clears, he stares in disbelief. What is this? You've got to be kidding. A pair of menacing, glowing eyes stare at him from the darkness. A huge, muscular goblin with long, braided hair looms over him. He immediately uses his appraisal skill. Appraisal! He shouts, keeping a safe distance from the fearsome creature. He remembers that his appraisal skill is now level 2, allowing him to see a target's skills. He had checked a regular goblin earlier, but it had no skills. Ha ha ha, he laughs nervously, knowing this new monster will be much stronger. The appraisal reveals the creature's identity. A level 10 goblin with a reinforced iron greatsword and the skill Super Strength. This is the rare monster of the floor. The hobgoblin swings its massive greatsword and Shuta quickly dodges the powerful attack. Huh, he says, surprised by his own speed. He sweats, realizing that if the attack had connected, he would have been killed instantly. The hobgoblin glares at him, preparing for another strike. The monster lets out a booming laugh as it swings its sword again. Good thing my highest stat is agility, he thinks, narrowly avoiding the attack. He observes that while the hobgoblin's strength is immense, its movements are slow and easy to predict. He notices a brief opening between the monster lifting and swinging its greatsword. That's gotta be my chance, he thinks, his eyes focused and determined. Here it comes, he shouts, bracing himself as the hobgoblin attacks again. He dodges and counters, but his blade only manages a shallow cut. Damn, it's still too shallow. He knows his strength has increased significantly. However, the hobgoblin's endurance is on another level, though his attacks are still doing some damage. He tells himself that he can't run away, especially since he's the one who summoned this monster. He has a responsibility to defeat it. He knows that if he runs and someone else gets hurt, it would be the worst possible outcome. He braces for another attack, determined to protect anyone else who might be in the dungeon. Huh? He says, confused, as something flies past his ear after his last attack. He looks back at the hobgoblin, which is now staggering from a surprisingly deep wound. What? Was that just now? Did I do that? He remembers hearing that even monsters have weak spots. Did I just happen to hit a good one? He realizes that if he can land a few more hits like that, he should be able to defeat the hobgoblin. The hobgoblin growls in rage, its eyes burning with fury. He takes a deep breath, preparing for the next exchange. All right, I got this, he tells himself as they clash in a flurry of strikes. He lands several critical hits in a row, and the giant monster finally collapses to the ground. He cautiously approaches the fallen hobgoblin, wondering if it's still alive. Did I really take it down? The monster's body glows and then vanishes in a burst of light, leaving behind its drops. A notification screen appears. Level up! You've gone from level 11 to level 17. He sighs in relief. Phew, I'm beat. He's shocked to have jumped so many levels at once. That's never happened to me before, he thinks. He immediately dumps all his new SP into his luck stat. Wait. He notices the green smoke is still lingering. Could it mean it's not over yet? If another rare monster shows up now, I'm screwed, right? He gulps, nervously watching the smoke, his heart pounding. The smoke finally dissipates, and he collapses to the ground in relief. That scared the hell out of me. If another monster had shown up just now, I might not have stood a chance, he says, exhausted. He wonders if that was the last rare monster, or if there just aren't any rarer ones beyond the hobgoblin. He looks at the dropped items: a reinforced iron greatsword, a medium magic stone, and a skill orb for brute strength. He wonders if a rarer monster didn't appear because his luck wasn't high enough. A new thought strikes him. Wait a sec. What if it didn't show up because of my luck? He decides he needs to be more careful and not get so caught up in testing things that he loses track of his surroundings. He plans to wait until he's stronger next time and maybe mix in some killer rabbits with the goblins. He also regrets dumping all his SP into luck without thinking. He concludes that it would be a good idea to keep some spare SP for emergencies in case a rare monster with high endurance shows up. All right then, he says, turning his attention to the skill orb he just got. I'm curious about the drops too, but first, time for some gotcha. He presses the 10-pull button again. As the capsules pop out, he sees a new, brilliant purple color. Purple? That's a first. Wait, is that above red? He realizes that because he reached level 17, his luck is now a whopping 112. Maybe breaking past the 100 mark allowed him to get an ultra-rare item. All right, let's open it up right now, he says, his hands trembling with excitement. He's blown away by the results. New SR stat boosts, a duplicate appraisal jammer skill, and a brand new UR skill. Fire magic level 1. Whoa, magic! Of course I'm going to use them. Why wouldn't I? He declares, immediately using all the new items. His status screen updates with even higher stats and the new fire magic skill. He notes that some skills are jackpot skills, while the duplicate was a bust. He got a little too excited about the magic skill and forgot about the brute strength skill orb from the hobgoblin. He wonders if it's actually any good, noticing that it's glowing with a faint aura. He looks at the skill orb, which provides a massive bonus to strength. He questions if it's even something a human should be using. He remembers that the hobgoblin had it, and he worries that if he uses it, he might turn into a muscle-bound monster himself. He decides against it. Yeah, no thanks. That's a bit much. He firmly presses no on the Use Skill Orb screen. He scrolls through his phone, deciding to research the new skills he's been getting, and he finds a message board for adventurers in Dungeon 525. He admits to himself that he's been avoiding online forums until now, but hopes to find some useful information about skills. He sees a post about a blazing sword, and another about a team member getting married. Huh? What's this? He wonders. He sighs, realizing that adventurers are always dreaming big, whether it's about legendary weapons or an in-team harem. He reminds himself that he doesn't even have a team. He notices that Maki is a popular topic on the message board, with many adventurers hoping to date her. Maki-san really is popular, huh? He thinks. He finds a useful thread discussing goblin drops. Someone asks if they can just take the iron knives from the goblins directly. Another user explains that monster weapons and drop items are treated separately, and that weapons disappear when the monster dies. That's actually super helpful, he thinks, realizing that the greatsword he got from the hobgoblin must be a legitimate drop item. He looks at the massive greatsword lying on the ground. It won't fit in my backpack. He groans. Guess I'll just have to drag it back by hand. When he finally arrives back at the guild, Maki rushes to greet him, her face filled with worry. Shouta-san, you're safe, right? He tells her he's back and asks if something happened, noticing the commotion in the guild. He explains that a rare monster, a hobgoblin, showed up on the first floor. Maki sighs in relief. But I'm just so glad you weren't hurt, Shouta-san. Her eyes fall on the giant sword he's carrying. Shouta-san, what is that sword? He scratches his cheek, blushing slightly. Ha ha. ended up taking it down. He proudly shows her the reinforced iron greatsword, explaining that it's the weapon the hobgoblin was using. And there are also magic stones and skill orbs, he adds, eager to show her all the loot he got. He pulls out the glowing brute strength skill orb, but Maki panics. Wait a second, Shouta-san? Please don't show that here, she exclaims, pushing the orb away. It's dangerous. Put it away. He looks at her, confused. Dangerous? A group of armed guards rushes over, alerted by the commotion. Maki quickly pulls him aside. Shota-san, please come to the conference room in the back, right now. He nervously agrees. Inside the conference room, Maki slams the door shut. Listen carefully, Shouta-san. She explains that skill orbs are incredibly valuable and that he can't just go showing them off in public. He apologizes, realizing his mistake. Maki softens her tone, saying she understands that he just wanted to report the kill and put everyone at ease. But there are already baseless rumors going around about you, Shouta-san, she says, her expression serious. You need to be more careful with yourself. She tells him that she's heard from her sister, Aki, that he's actually a hard worker and very skilled, but not everyone knows that. Shouta is surprised. Wait, what? Aki-san thinks that highly of me? Maki warns him that even if he was the one who defeated the hobgoblin, there are bad people who might see him as an easy target. So please, be more careful from now on, okay, Shouta-san? Yes, ma'am, he stammers, blushing from her lecture. Great, she says with a smile. That's the kind of answer I like to hear. He jokingly calls her and she blushes, admitting she was trying to sound like a teacher. He wonders why she's being so kind and thoughtful with him. He wonders if it's just because she's Aki's little sister, but he feels a deeper connection. Maki suggests they speak as an adventurer and a receptionist from now on. She asks him to confirm that he was the one who defeated the hobgoblin. He nods. No doubt, I did. Maki confirms that the greatsword, the size of the magic stone, and the skill orb all match the known drop items of a hobgoblin. However, she says, her expression turning serious again. She explains that while she doesn't think he's lying, his adventurer records make his story hard to believe. Defeating goblins is one thing, but taking down a hobgoblin is a completely different story. He realizes that the other adventurers probably think he just got lucky and picked up items that someone else dropped. He knows that the only reason he managed to defeat the monster was because of his high luck stat. With his stats raised beyond normal levels and his new enhancement skills, he was able to land a critical hit. He admits to himself that without all that, he probably wouldn't have been able to win. I understand what you're trying to say, Maki-san, he says, but this is my strength right now. He looks at her with pleading eyes. Please believe in me. Maki agrees to trust him, but has one final question. Shouta-san, your luck stat, how high is it right now? She explains that she heard from her sister that he's been single-mindedly raising only his luck. She assures him that the information won't be entered into the database and that he doesn't have to answer if he doesn't want to. He knows that asking for non-public stat information is normally taboo, as it can be a matter of survival for adventurers. He takes a deep breath and decides to trust her. All right. He tells her he can tell her and Aki, who has done so much for him. He feels like he can trust them because they genuinely seem to care about him. After all, if there's one thing I am good at, it's luck, he declares with a grin. Right now, my luck stat is at 112. Meanwhile, other adventurers are discussing the loud scream they heard earlier that day. They figure out it was the battle cry of a hobgoblin and that a newbie managed to defeat it by chance. They are jealous, especially when they hear that a brute strength skill orb dropped. The conversation shifts to Shuta, the famously weakest guy who showed up at the guild that day. They mock his iron gear and his reputation as a slime hunter. The rumors get wilder, with some even saying he's trying to make Maki his personal assistant. Back at the sister's apartment, Aki arrives home, excited to see her sister. Maki welcomes her home and offers her a drink. Aki happily cracks open a can of beer. Phew! Nothing hits like a cold beer after work, she exclaims. Maki asks why she's at work on her day off, and Aki explains that she was worried when Shuta didn't show up. She complains that she was so bored she couldn't even read manga or take a nap. She ended up going out and smacking some slimes just for fun. Maki scolds her for not taking her receptionist duties seriously. Aki dismisses her sister's concerns, saying that last month, Shouta was the only adventurer who even used their branch. Maki points out that someone still needs to be there, but Aki insists that no one has been coming at all. Aki also mentions that she has a good rating from headquarters, so she's allowed a bit of leeway. She adds that their dungeon is the only one without any overnight staff. Maki starts cleaning up, and Aki praises her, saying everything is thanks to Shuta. Aki explains that the amount of magic stones Shuta brings in is amazing, and that he knocks out their monthly quota in no time. Maki looks thoughtful. Still, though, Aki agrees, noting that the drop rate for tiny magic stones from slimes is usually awful. Maki wonders if Shouta has some kind of trick for getting so many. Aki cheers, saying that thanks to him, her lifestyle is totally secure. She reveals that since she issued his referral, part of his commission from other dungeons flows back to their 777 branch. Anyway, Aki says, a sly look on her face. She leans in close to her sister and asks, "When you actually met Shota-kun, how was he?" Maki blushes and stammers, trying to avoid the question. "I think he's a genuinely good person," Maki finally admits. She explains that he has some quirks but isn't lacking in common sense. She also points out that there's a lot Aki never explained to him properly. Aki ignores her sister's comment and excitedly asks for all the details about how amazing Shuta was that day. Maki sighs. Amazing doesn't even begin to cover it. She reveals that just today, Shuta apparently took out around 150 goblins on the first floor all by himself. Aki is shocked. "Whoa, that's crazy. He's still clocking insane numbers." Maki adds that he also got a whopping 132 tiny magic stones. Aki recalls that most newbie adventurers are fine with just 10 to 20 kills a day. Maki confirms that he also picked up nearly 30 iron knives. Aki groans, realizing that since knives are considered rare, the system halved their value. "No way. Ugh, that's such a waste." Maki explains that while the guild is happy about the magic stones, the iron knives are worth way more per item. Maki tells her sister that Shuta didn't know about the reduced value and was totally crushed during the appraisal. "And it became painfully obvious that you hadn't taught him squat," Maki says, scolding her older sister. "From now on, I'm going to give Shouta a proper education. As his sensei," Maki declares. Aki laughs. "Sounds like you're the one acting like his personal assistant now. I'm officially nominating you to be Shouta-kun's personal assistant." Maki protests that it's only because his referral letter named her as his official agent. Aki playfully tackles her sister. "Quit that smug grinning already!" She reminds Maki that double contracting comes with restrictions. Maki gets serious again. Anyway, back to the topic. If Shouta-san's making this much, hiring a hauler might be a good idea. She recalls that Shuta wasn't really into the idea, as it's hard to find someone who fits the bill. Aki agrees, admitting that Shuta has his quirks. She also points out that a regular hauler might actually slow him down. Maki looks thoughtful, considering her sister's words. She then reminds her sister to wipe her hands before reading the report she brought. "Right. What's this? A report?" Maki explains that it's a special edition report on Shouta's performance that day, with everything he said was okay to share. Aki's eyes widen as she reads the report. "Ooh, oh." She is absolutely stunned, barely able to process the words on the page, the same Shuta who could only defeat slimes. She looks at her sister in disbelief, questioning how he could have possibly managed to take down a hobgoblin on the very first floor. Maki confirms that every single item he brought back has been verified as an authentic hobgoblin drop, which only makes Aki more confused. She tells her sister that Shuta then put all of the items, including the rare skill orb, up for auction through the guild, a move that Aki finds incredibly impressive. Aki understands him selling the greatsword, but she can't believe he would give up a jackpot skill like brute strength, knowing it will cause a massive uproar at the auction. She wonders why on earth he wouldn't keep such a powerful skill for himself, even theorizing that he might already have it. Maki calmly tells her sister that's not the reason, leaving Aki completely baffled. She explains that Shuta feels he owes Aki a great deal for giving him the referral, and that this is his way of repaying the favor. Maki recounts how she explained the referral system to him, detailing how both the issuing receptionist and the adventurer benefit from the arrangement. Aki is flabbergasted, realizing that he decided to sell the incredibly rare skill just to help her, and she insists that he must stop. Maki had explained to him that while the guild takes a large portion of the dungeon tax, a small percentage is added to the receptionist's paycheck as a commission. This system also applies to guild-processed auctions, meaning a portion of the profits from the sale would be attributed to Aki for issuing the referral. Aki is overwhelmed by his kindness, feeling that his gesture is far too generous and something she could never repay. She knows that a jackpot skill like brute strength will sell for an astronomical amount, a life-changing sum of money. The thought that 5% of that incredible income will go to her and her sister feels like too much, a debt she can never hope to settle. Maki explains that she tried to persuade him, but he was resolute, and now she is more determined than ever to support him in any way she can. Aki's resolve hardens, and she declares that their first priority must be managing his gear, a task she will gladly help with. She also reveals that she has been secretly collecting data and research papers on the luck stat for some time. Recalling studies that suggest luck can lead to miracles, she proposes they compile all their research over the next few days to help teach and guide Shuta. The next morning, Shuta arrives at the bustling guild, looking around for Maki. He notices a large, noisy crowd gathered in the main lobby and wonders what all the commotion is about. An adventurer is loudly boasting about taking down 50 monsters on the 3rd floor all by himself. Another one chimes in, bragging about scoring 15 small magic stones, declaring himself the most promising rookie. Shuta finds himself in the middle of a shouting match as various adventurers all claim to be the real deal. He steps back from the intense crowd, a wry smile on his face at their competitive antics. He recalls Maki's explanation of the referral system, a complex but mutually beneficial arrangement. He smiles, grateful to Maki for explaining something that Aki had never bothered to mention. He now understands that the receptionist exclusivity system creates a powerful bond between an adventurer and their handler. Normally, receptionists only handle basic appraisals and give general tips to adventurers passing through, but an exclusive receptionist becomes a dedicated partner, helping with gear, managing health, and even offering emotional support. He blushes at the thought of some receptionists even offering combat guidance or massages, a level of luxury he can barely imagine. Their exclusive adventurer becomes their #1 priority, receiving their full, undivided attention. This is precisely why the most popular receptionists are constantly swarmed by adventurers, all vying for a coveted referral letter. He realizes he has stumbled right into the middle of such a scene, and another adventurer shoves him, telling the rookie to stop spacing out. He looks at the chaotic crowd, a sight so different from the empty lobby of his home branch. He mulls over the word exclusive, the idea of having someone dedicated to his success, feeling both strange and appealing. He admits to himself that being greeted by a pretty lady and having her full support is an undeniably attractive prospect. He imagines his own receptionist, Aki, welcoming him back, but then pictures her demanding more magic stones, and he smiles, knowing that's the dynamic he prefers. He looks at an image of her and thinks that if you really look closely, she is definitely pretty. He laughs to himself, knowing he would be far too embarrassed to ever tell her that to her face. Besides, he thinks with a fond smile, there's more to their relationship than that. He knows it wouldn't be a stretch to say that in their quiet, forgotten branch, he is already her exclusive adventurer. He tries to push through the noisy crowd, insisting he has business, but they just dismiss him as the slime hunter. He finally spots Maki at the reception desk, a look of recognition on her face. He cheerfully waves and wishes her a good morning. She greets him back with a warm smile and asks him to head to the conference room, much to the annoyance of the other adventurers. As he follows her to the back, a mysterious woman with long, dark hair watches them go. A small, knowing smile plays on her lips as she sees them disappear from view. Deep inside Guild Branch 525, the receptionist Maki Kutone bows her head deeply to Shuta, sincerely thanking him for saving her from the absolute chaos of the morning rush. Completely flustered, Shuta waves his hands frantically, insisting that she has it all wrong and that he's the one who should be grateful for her help. With a bright, disarming smile, Shuta explains that she didn't just help with the appraisal, she guided him through the entire daunting auction process. Maki looks up, her heart touched by his kindness, and explains that as his assigned receptionist, it's simply her duty to support him. Shuta leans forward earnestly, telling her it was no trouble at all and that he desperately needs her continued support in the future. He then looks down at the brute strength skill orb, a glowing symbol of his insane success, admitting that he feels a bit guilty getting such a huge benefit so early in his career. The two then go back and forth in a comical display of politeness, both insisting the other deserves far more thanks for their help. After their friendly argument finally settles, Maki's expression suddenly turns thoughtful as she prepares to bring up an entirely new topic. Remembering the pure chaos from earlier, Shuta asks if the lobby is always that crowded, with countless adventurers swarming her desk and calling out her name. Maki smiles kindly, explaining that while weekday mornings are a storm of student adventurers, the weekends are thankfully much more peaceful. As Shuta listens, a brilliant idea begins to form in his mind. What if he made Maki his personal receptionist to get her dedicated, one-on-one help? He remembers all her great advice, but more importantly, he realizes she is the only person at this branch who knows the secret of his ridiculously high luck stat. The thought instantly solidifies in his mind. With Maki as his full-time exclusive partner, he could accomplish so much more, so much faster. He looks at Maki and, trying to sound casual, asks if she might be interested in becoming his official partner. To his complete shock, Maki's face lights up with a deep blush as she asks with wide, hopeful eyes if he really, truly means it. Shuta is absolutely stunned. He thought he was just making a light-hearted joke, but Maki seems genuinely ecstatic about the idea, quickly apologizing for losing her composure. Now that the possibility is real, Shuta's mind races, desperately wondering if the guild rules even allow for something like this. Maki confirms that it is indeed possible, even with the referral from her sister Aki, but she warns him there are certain strict conditions that must be met. Using a helpful diagram, Maki explains the first ironclad rule. An adventurer can request an exclusive receptionist, but a receptionist can never initiate the offer. She explains this rule is in place to protect popular adventurers from being completely overwhelmed with offers, and Shuta agrees it makes perfect sense. Shuta notes that while he knows top-tier adventurers have exclusive receptionists, he's never once heard of anyone having more than one. Maki looks at him with a hint of uncertainty in her eyes, asking if he is truly sure he wants her, especially since they only just met today. Shuta just smiles sheepishly, feeling a little awkward now that his casual comment has become so serious. He decides that honesty is the best policy, admitting that he didn't even think it was possible and had said it partly as a joke. But then he looks at her with genuine concern, explaining that seeing her struggle with that massive crowd made him desperately want her to handle his affairs long-term. With a newfound sense of determination, Shuta declares that he wants her to be his true personal receptionist, not just some temporary stand-in. He then bows deeply and formally, asking her one more time if she would truly be willing to work exclusively with him. He explains that since he plans to focus all his efforts on Dungeon 525, having a dedicated partner at this specific branch is absolutely essential for his plans. He adds that Aki herself had recommended her, and after meeting Maki for himself, he is completely sure that she is the only one for the job. Hearing his final heartfelt plea, Maki is so moved that she covers her mouth, her eyes wide with overwhelming emotion. After a silent moment, she lowers her head, a soft blush still coloring her cheeks, and formally agrees to his proposal. Looking up with a bright, sparkling smile, she tells him that if she were ever to be someone's exclusive partner, she would want it to be him and only him. Shuta is completely floored. His heart starts pounding in his chest as he realizes her words felt exactly like a romantic confession. He glances over at Maki and sees she is blushing just as deeply as he is, confirming the sweet, mutual embarrassment hanging between them. Desperately trying to move past the awkward moment, Maki clears her throat and announces that the first condition has officially been met. She immediately pulls out her smartphone to make a call, asking him to wait just a moment while she handles the next step. Shuta watches as the phone begins to ring, the sound echoing in the otherwise quiet conference room. A cheerful, high-energy voice suddenly bursts from the phone. He instantly recognizes it as Aki, Maki's older sister. Shuta is shocked by how casual and informal Aki is with her sister, as Maki immediately asks why she's calling during work hours. Maki calmly informs her sister that Shuta is right there with her, and Aki sounds genuinely surprised to hear it. Aki immediately starts teasing them, wondering aloud what she's supposed to do now that Shuta is trying to take her dear little sister away. Getting straight to the point, Maki tells Aki that Shuta has officially asked her to become his second exclusive receptionist. Aki's teasing tone instantly vanishes, replaced by pure, unadulterated shock and excitement at this super rare and unbelievable development. Without a moment's hesitation, Aki gives her blessing, and Shouta chimes in, saying he'll be fine as long as he's with Maki. Aki playfully complains that things are moving way too fast between them, and that she feels a little left out of all the excitement. Having gotten the approval she needed, Maki quickly thanks her sister and promptly hangs up the phone. With a satisfied smile, Maki announces that the very last step is to get official permission from the branch chief. Shouta is still trying to process the call, completely amazed by how casually and playfully the two sisters interact with each other. Maki walks over to an intercom on the wall and professionally announces them to the chief's office. Just a moment later, a clear, sharp knock sounds from the conference room door. A calm, authoritative voice asks for permission to enter, and Maki nervously grants it. The door swings open to reveal a woman with long black hair and a powerful, commanding presence. The very same woman he saw in the lobby earlier. Shouta's eyes widen in absolute shock, wondering if this incredibly imposing figure could possibly be the branch chief. Maki also stares, a strange and powerful feeling of familiarity washing over her as she takes in the woman's powerful aura. As the woman stands near Maki, Shouta is suddenly struck by their uncanny resemblance. They look almost identical. Stuttering, Shouta hesitantly asks if she is Maki and Aki's older sister, but the woman just gives a small, amused smile. Maki quickly corrects him, explaining with an embarrassed blush that this woman is actually their mother. Shouta's jaw drops to the floor. He is completely and utterly stunned by this shocking reveal. The woman, who looks far too young to be the mother of two adult daughters, formally introduces herself as Miki, the branch chief of the 525th Dungeon Association. Miki explains that she had planned to greet him eventually, just not under these particular, rather dramatic circumstances. Her expression suddenly shifts, becoming sharp and incredibly intimidating as she leans in and asks if having Aki wasn't enough for him. And now he wants Maki too. Shouta flinches back, sweating profusely under the immense pressure of her intense, piercing gaze. He instantly realizes this crushing pressure must come from her experience as a former high-level adventurer. But Maki, not backing down for a second, steps forward and declares that she truly wants to become Shouta's exclusive receptionist. She continues passionately, explaining that her choice is based on her own genuine trust in him, leaving Shouta both surprised and deeply moved. He looks between Maki and the intimidating branch chief, amazed by Maki's firm and unwavering resolve. Seeing her daughter's absolute seriousness, Miki's harsh expression finally softens, and she seems to be convinced. Miki agrees to consider the request, but she says she will only do so on one specific condition. She asks Shouta to confirm that he was the one who recently hunted a rare monster and obtained a skill orb. Miki continues, verifying that he then submitted that very skill orb to the auction through Maki, and Shouta confirms that it's all correct. The branch chief explains that his incredibly rare, super-strength skill has generated a massive amount of excitement for the upcoming auction. She adds that this single item has significantly boosted the reputation of their entire guild branch. A look of dawning understanding spreads across Shouta's face as he starts to guess what her condition is going to be. Miki gives him a knowing smile, clearly impressed that he's already catching on to her plan. She then lays out her challenge. He must bring back another high-quality, auction-worthy skill orb within the next 2 weeks. Her voice then turns deadly serious as she delivers a chilling ultimatum. If he fails, she will absolutely not entrust both of her precious daughters to him. The three of them stand in the room together, the immense weight of her challenge hanging heavy in the silent air. She gives a confident smile, completely sure that her test will prove whether or not Shouta is truly worthy of her daughters. Maki immediately protests that the condition is completely unreasonable, but Miki sternly reminds her to address her as branch chief while on duty. Miki turns back to Shouta, making it crystal clear that she will not be changing the terms of her challenge. She clarifies that there's no punishment for failure, but the partnership he so desperately wants will simply not be approved. Leaning forward with a challenging smile, she asks him how her little offer sounds to him. Shouta falls completely silent, thinking deeply. He believes that acquiring another skill might not be as impossible as it sounds. He recalls the intense battle with the hobgoblin, feeling confident that he can defeat it a second time if he has to. He then remembers his secret weapon, the gotcha. Another big roll will skyrocket his stats and make the fight even easier than before. He thinks about the supposed rarity of skill orbs, knowing that almost no one else has a high luck stat like his. He realizes that since some skill orbs are sold on the market, they can't be impossibly rare for someone who can essentially control the odds. With his incredibly high luck stat, he feels a growing confidence that he can definitely meet this challenge. He visualizes his unique cycle of growth, fighting monsters, leveling up, boosting his luck, and getting exponentially stronger with each gotcha roll. However, He also has to consider the risks of summoning something even stronger, like an ogre, or even worse, a goblin king. The goblin king worries him the most, as he couldn't find any detailed information about it, making it a terrifying unknown. Lost deep in his thoughts, Shuta reminds himself to be cautious. He can't guarantee that some unknown, unbeatable threat doesn't exist. Maki notices his prolonged silence and calls out his name, her voice filled with genuine concern for him. She leans in close to get his attention, startling him so much that he jumps back, completely flustered. Mistaking his hesitation for a silent refusal, Maki looks down sadly, telling him it's okay if he doesn't want to accept the challenge. She then gives him a gentle, radiant smile, saying that just hearing him say he wanted her was more than enough for her. Taking a deep breath, Shuta regains his focus and quickly assures Maki that he is perfectly fine. He turns to Miki and asks if she expects another super strength skill specifically, or if any rare skill will do. The branch chief smirks, confirming that while another super strength would be fine, something new would be far more exciting for the auction. With all the information he needs, Shuta's expression hardens with unshakable resolve as he clenches his fist and declares, "Got it! I accept those terms." Hearing his determined response, Miki smiles with deep satisfaction, pleased with his answer. She immediately pulls out her device and begins sending him some crucial information for his quest. As Shuta's device pings, Miki explains that she has just sent him a comprehensive list of all known rare monsters and their skills. She adds that she has even marked the especially valuable ones for his reference, giving him a clear target. With her business now concluded, Miki turns swiftly and takes her leave from the conference room. The door slams shut behind her, leaving Shuta and Maki completely alone in the sudden, heavy silence. Maki turns to Shuta, her expression full of guilt, and apologizes profusely for the incredibly difficult challenge her mother just gave him. Shuta quickly reassures her, insisting that she has absolutely nothing to apologize for. He reminds her that he was the one who brought up the partnership in the first place, and Maki's face lights up with a grateful smile. Still worried, Maki asks him to please not push himself too hard, and Shuta nods, promising her that he'll do his best. A little while later, Shuta walks through the bustling guild hall all alone, feeling completely and utterly exhausted. He spots a sign for Cafe 525 and decides that taking a much-needed break is exactly what he needs right now. Inside the cozy cafe, a friendly waitress serves him a steaming, comforting mug of their specialty. The drink is the cafe's most popular item, a fragrant tea topped with a perfect, delicate swirl of cream. Shuta takes a long, slow sip, letting the comforting warmth spread all the way through him. The rich, comforting sweetness feels like it's literally healing his tired and weary soul. His thoughts immediately drift to Maki, remembering the tea she served him and how calming her presence is. Sitting at a small table, he takes another drink, feeling better physically, but his mind quickly wanders back to his new problems. He thinks about how his simple morning visit to the guild somehow ended up going in such a strange and unexpected direction. He remembers that his original goal was just to ask what to do with the extra loot he couldn't carry out of the dungeon. A sudden wave of worry washes over him. To summon another hobgoblin, he'll have to defeat 100 more monsters and likely waste even more items. Looking at the cafe menu, he realizes with a jolt that a single iron knife is worth 3 cups of this delicious tea. He vividly recalls how Maki had scolded him for being wasteful and promises himself that he will be much more careful from now on. His thoughts turn back to the branch chief, Miki, as he desperately tries to understand her better. He realizes that Miki seems like a perfect and terrifying mix of her 2 daughters. On one hand, she clearly has Maki's gentle, deeply caring side. But on the other hand, she has the exact same intense, invisible pressure that he feels from Aki. And most of all, it was the mischievous look in her eyes. He concludes that she has the exact same teasing, playful spirit as Aki. He nervously calculates that Miki's personality is about 2 parts Maki and a whopping 8 parts Aki. He considers the challenge she gave him, feeling that she was probably only half joking about it. And yet he also feels that the other half of her was completely and totally serious. He couldn't fully read her intentions, but he sensed that she truly cares for Maki and genuinely expected him to succeed. His determination suddenly returns with a vengeance. Since he started this whole thing, he decides he absolutely has to see it through to the end. He finally opens the file Miki had sent to his device, ready to start planning his next move. He begins to scroll through the data, immediately noticing that it includes valuable information on the hobgoblin. He sees the entry for the 2nd floor is marked with nothing but question marks, realizing the guild's information is dangerously incomplete. The data confirms his suspicion that the hobgoblin is the only known rare monster on the entire 1st floor. He continues scrolling, deep in thought, desperately trying to form a solid plan of attack. The list shows that after the hobgoblin, the next monster is the killer rabbit, but there's no information at all on a rare version. The thought immediately pops into his head. Could a rare version of the killer rabbit actually exist? He knows the spawn rate for killer rabbits is incredibly low, and if a single goblin got in the way, the entire attempt to summon a rare one would fail. He notes that killer rabbits also appear on the second floor, which could potentially make it easier. But the path between floors is unpredictable. Another monster could appear at any time and completely ruin his count. He lets out a frustrated sigh, a blush of annoyance creeping onto his cheeks. Now that he's thought of the possibility, he knows the idea is going to bother him like crazy until he finds out the truth. His burning curiosity wins out. He decides the only way to know for sure is to head back into the dungeon and test his theory. Finishing his tea, he feels a new surge of energy course through him and shouts, "All right!" He jumps up from his seat and rushes out of the cafe shouting, "Let's do this for Maki-san too!" As he leaves, a group of nearby adventurers who are clearly diehard fans of Maki stare at him in complete and utter shock. With a newfound sense of purpose, Shota rushes back to the dungeon, immediately beginning his exploration of the winding, unexplored corridors. He quickly spots his first target, pointing and saying, "There you are!" to a very startled goblin. With a single swift swing, he defeats the goblin, noting that this is the 30th one he's killed in a row. The branch chief's strict 2-week deadline is still fresh in his mind, pushing him forward. A monster drops a brand new sword, but he knows he has much bigger things to worry about right now. He glances at the large, dark, unexplored areas on his map,
and the empty spaces bother him immensely. He decides it's much better to fill
out the map completely first so he can focus on hunting more efficiently later. As he explores, he realizes he only mapped about 30% of the floor yesterday by looping through the same small area over and over. He carefully studies his map on a small, glowing device, planning out the most efficient route. He thinks it's a good idea to scout all the unexplored sections, just in case there's something he missed. He remembers his only focus yesterday was killing 100 goblins and starts to worry he might accidentally summon the hobgoblin again. Suddenly, he spots a killer rabbit and makes a quick mental note. Be extremely careful not to kill 100 goblins today. To deliberately break his streak, he quickly turns and defeats the killer rabbit instead of another goblin. He puts his new strategy into practice. After killing 30 goblins, he purposefully switches to hunting killer rabbits. After hours of careful and meticulous exploration, he looks at his now completely filled-out map with a proud smile. But then he notices something incredibly strange. 4 white dots representing other humans are following him. He zooms in on the map, realizing with a jolt that the 4 dots have stayed the exact same distance away from him for hours. He walks through an empty corridor that he just cleared. Since he killed all the monsters, the people following him definitely aren't hunting. His brow furrows with deep suspicion. Their behavior is not that of normal, everyday adventurers. Looking at his map, he lets out a groan, wondering if his rare skill orb is what attracted all this unwanted attention. He flashes back to the moment he excitedly showed the orb to Maki, realizing with regret that he got completely carried away. Back in the present, he sighs heavily, trying to figure out what to do about his mysterious stalkers. He considers his first option, running away, but he immediately dismisses it, as it would just make him look guilty. His second idea is to try and lose them in the dungeon's maze-like corridors, but he decides to keep that as a last resort backup plan. His third thought is to simply ignore them, but he can't risk using his secret gotcha skill while they are watching his every move. For his fourth option, he imagines walking right up to them, but he has absolutely no idea how they would react. He feels a growing worry that if he messes this up, he could end up causing even more trouble for Maki. Then, a much better, safer idea suddenly strikes him like a bolt of lightning. He decides the smartest thing to do is to report it to Maki immediately, and he quickly heads out of the dungeon. Later, back in the conference room, Maki listens with deep concern as he explains that he's being followed by a group of 4. They sit together at a table, seriously discussing the problem, and Shota asks for her expert advice. As they talk, Shota casually takes a bite of his lunch, trying to stay calm. He notices Maki's lunchbox is filled with beautifully arranged food and can't help but wonder if she made it herself. It was a lucky coincidence that their lunch breaks happened to overlap, but the serious problem still weighs heavily on his mind. Maki glances at him, thinking to herself that her many admirers would be incredibly jealous if they could see them together like this. After a moment of careful thought, Maki looks up, ready to offer him a brilliant solution. She suggests that he try going to the second floor of the dungeon to deal with his stalkers. Shota is surprised by her suggestion, but tells her he was actually already planning to go there anyway. Maki explains that the second floor is a massive, wide-open plains area, which would make it extremely difficult for anyone to follow him secretly. She adds that if they do decide to follow him there, it will be the perfect chance to get a good, clear look at their faces. With a determined look, Maki promises that she will personally see him off every single time he enters the dungeon. Shuta is shocked but incredibly happy to hear her offer. Maki explains that as his temporary receptionist, it should be perfectly fine. She then reveals the rest of her clever plan. By seeing him off, she might be able to spot the exact people who are following him. Once they're identified, she can look up their adventurer profiles and issue a very strict warning. She looks at him confidently, asking what he thinks of her foolproof plan. Shuta is completely amazed by her ingenuity. He is both relieved and impressed, exclaiming how glad he is that he came to her for help. Maki blushes and smiles warmly, saying that she is truly honored to be able to help him. After lunch, Shuta stands ready at the entrance to the second floor, feeling much more prepared and confident than before. He looks out across the vast open landscape and spots a glittering stream in the far distance. As he surveys the new area, he notices that goblins and killer rabbits are roaming around together, side by side. Now that he's on the second floor, he pulls out his device to check the official list of monsters for this area. A guide shows goblins and killer rabbits, noting that hobgoblins have been reported, but crucially, no rare killer rabbits. The list continues with hills wolves and golems, and so far, no rare variants of these have been reported either. Shuta finds it helpful that the monsters are separated by terrain, but the borders aren't clearly marked, which could be tricky. He immediately notices far more killer rabbits here, giving him a renewed sense of hope that summoning a rare one might actually be possible. For now, he decides to focus on mapping out the new floor by carefully walking along the wall. A goblin suddenly jumps out at him, but he barely reacts, far too focused on his goal to be bothered. The thought of the rare killer rabbit is still burning in his mind, and he decides this is the perfect chance to start his hunt. But before he can even make a move, a blur of motion flashes past him, and the goblin is instantly defeated by someone else. Shuta stands there in stunned silence as the goblin vanishes into thin air right before his eyes. He quickly checks his map and sees the goblin's red dot is completely gone. He knows it couldn't have just disappeared on its own. An angry voice suddenly shouts, "Hey, you!" And Shuta turns around, feeling incredibly annoyed. The four adventurers who were following him finally emerge from the shadows, demanding to know who he is. Shuta glares back at them, completely unimpressed that they just stole his kill and are now acting like he's the bad guy. The group's leader points at him, incorrectly calling him the Slime Slayer, and Shuta mentally corrects him with a weary sigh. Two of the adventurers start complaining loudly, clearly jealous that he has the famous Maki as his personal receptionist. The youngest one dramatically declares that Maki is his goddess and sternly warns Shuta to stay away from her, while the leader just groans in frustration. Suddenly, two of them start arguing with each other over who has a better claim to Maki. As they shout back and forth, Shuta realizes their voices are strangely familiar, and he tries to remember where he's heard them before. Then, it suddenly clicks into place. He remembers the chaotic crowd from this morning. These are the exact same adventurers who now deny hitting on her in perfect panicked sync. A flashback confirms it. They believe that as a successful and rising team, they deserve to have Maki as their exclusive partner. Shuta deadpans, thinking to himself that their version of asking for advice sounds a lot more like hitting on her. He asks them why they are working together if they are all supposed to be romantic rivals, and they look at him like he's completely clueless. One of them scoffs, saying that people from the frontier don't know anything about how things work here, and Shuta feels a flash of annoyance. The adventurer with glasses condescendingly offers to educate Shuta on the matter. He explains that while personal contracts are the ultimate goal, it's really just a matter of personal ego. The word ego completely confuses Shuta, as he doesn't understand what they mean. The adventurer then admits that none of them are strong enough to succeed on their own, but as a team, they have a much better chance. They proudly declare themselves the rising stars of this entire dungeon, the next big thing. Shuta is completely taken aback. The idea of being in a team, of having comrades, is entirely foreign to him. He flashes back to the last 3 lonely years, which he spent all by himself hunting nothing but slimes. He always thought it was just easier to be alone, especially to keep his powerful gotcha skill a secret. A sudden wave of deep sadness washes over him as he realizes the cold, hard truth of his situation. He has been completely and utterly alone in this world for a very long time. He remembers Maki's suggestion to hire a carrier, but he knows he can't risk anyone finding out his secret. One of the adventurers snaps him out of his thoughts. "It's Slime Hunter," he mutters, correcting them one last time before resigning himself to the fact that he's destined to fly solo. The team immediately goes right back to bickering about why they were all trying to impress Maki individually. The leader proudly states that as the official team leader, he should be the one to get the contract. The strategist quickly cuts in, arguing that he's the brains of the operation and deserves it more. The hooded member claims he kills the most monsters. The youngest member then declares that he's the shadow leader of the group, and Shuta just watches, thinking, here they go again. The argument rapidly escalates, and Shuta is completely baffled by their strange and chaotic dynamic. He suddenly understands why Maki has such a hard time dealing with this particular group of adventurers. He puts his hands together and says a silent prayer for them, knowing that a severe scolding from Maki is definitely coming their way. He's absolutely certain that Maki saw them following him when she was seeing him off at the dungeon entrance. He remembers the sting of being scolded by her himself, but a small blush creeps onto his face as he admits he actually kind of enjoyed it. He quickly pushes that embarrassing thought aside, returning his attention to the bickering adventurers. Amidst all the chaos, the youngest one mutters, "That short guy, he's got some kind of skill, doesn't he?" The adventurer with glasses quickly agrees, saying he definitely saw him use some kind of skill earlier. The other two look confused, but the fact that two of them saw something presents a new, dangerous problem for Shuta. Realizing that two of them have noticed something unusual, he discreetly uses his appraise skill to learn their names and abilities. The first is Nishino Kotoka, a level 18 adventurer with the tracker skill. Next is the team leader, Hoju Hiroshi, a level 17 with the leadership skill. The third member is also named Hoju Hiroshi, a level 16 with wind magic and the glasses of insight. The final member is Minamita Takaru, a level 19 with the skill Herculean Strength. Shuta is completely shocked. Every single one of them has an incredibly valuable and powerful skill. He's relieved they didn't notice him appraising them, but he realizes that despite their goofy behavior, they are actually a very strong team. It all clicks into place for him. The tracker skill is how they were able to follow him so perfectly, but he's still confused why they were stalking him instead of hunting monsters. Deciding to end the confrontation, he turns to them with a casual wave, saying he understands they all want Maki as their exclusive receptionist, and their faces instantly light up. But he quickly holds up a hand, telling them he doesn't have time for this and needs to get back to hunting. He adds that with their incredible abilities, they should be working on improving themselves instead of following him around, and the group falls completely silent. Shuta immediately regrets his harsh words, realizing he might have just hit a very sensitive nerve. The adventurer with glasses admits that they aren't proud of what they did, looking ashamed. Then, his embarrassment suddenly turns to anger, and he shouts that this is all Shuta's fault. He reminds Shota of his incredible, almost unbelievable feat, defeating a rare monster all by himself and bringing back the super strength skill. He explains that their entire team barely managed to win against a hobgoblin, and they couldn't believe a solo adventurer could defeat one alone. Because the story sounded completely impossible, they decided to follow him to see the truth for themselves. Shuta completely understands their suspicion. He knows his sudden explosive growth would naturally seem like complete nonsense to anyone. With a slight smile, Shuta asks if they learned anything from following him, and the strategist nods grimly. He points dramatically at Shuta, shouting their one and only conclusion: that you're ridiculously, unbelievably abnormal. The team leader joins in, complaining that Shuta managed to gather over 100 magic stones in just a few short hours. He yells that Shuta's farming speed is completely and utterly insane, beyond anything they've ever seen. The hooded member then asks how many monsters Shuta defeated this morning, even while knowing he was being followed. Shuta casually replies, "I think around 239 or so," and the entire team stares at him, their jaws hanging on the floor. They ask if he ever gets tired, but Shuta just smiles and says that he actually finds it fun. The team is left completely speechless. The word fun echoes in their minds, a concept they'd long forgotten. The team leader looks down, completely defeated, realizing the vast uncrossable difference in their mindsets. He knows that if Shuta keeps this up, the power gap between them will only continue to grow at an alarming rate. A fire is suddenly lit within them. The leader rallies his defeated teammates, and they immediately run off to train even harder. Shuta watches them run off towards the third floor, feeling incredibly relieved to finally be alone again. He chuckles to himself, thinking about how they just called him abnormal. Looking out at the vast open plains, he feels a new surge of confidence, believing that killing 1,000 monsters a day might actually be possible for him. Now that he's alone, he opens the Dungeon Network app to test his new fire magic skill. The app explains that he can use Torch for light and Fireball for a powerful attack. He learns that he can cast them just by thinking about it. He tests Torch, and a small flame immediately appears above his finger. He thinks about it disappearing, and it instantly vanishes. Amazing, he exclaims, completely impressed. He summons the torch again, learning that it will stay lit for as long as he can maintain his focus. However, the moment he gets distracted by a nearby goblin, the flame immediately goes out. He understands now. The magic requires constant, unbroken focus to maintain. This could make it incredibly difficult to use while he's also fighting with a sword at the same time. But he reconsiders. Maybe he could use it to control the battlefield from a safe distance. He knows that maintaining focus on both spells at once will be an incredible challenge, but the payoff could be huge. He imagines a dark cave, needing the torch for light while also launching files and swinging his sword. He decides to start practicing right away, knowing that a reliable ranged attack is a massive advantage in the dungeon. Just then, a loud squeak echoes from the nearby bushes, startling him. He turns to see a killer rabbit, its sharp horn ready to charge him. He looks around and realizes he has wandered into the river area, which is completely filled with killer rabbits. A wide, excited grin spreads across his face as he realizes his opportunity. He points at the swarming rabbits and declares, "All right, you guys are the perfect test subjects for my new magic." He stretches out his hand, taking careful aim, ready to unleash his very first fireball in combat. Focusing all his energy, he unleashes his first fireball spell. The fiery projectile hits its target with a satisfying explosion, defeating the killer rabbit in a single, instant hit. Thrilled with his success, he decides his next step is to practice using it while also fighting with his sword. He gets his chance almost immediately, slashing at a rabbit that gets way too close, and then immediately launching another fireball at a second rabbit that was further away. The valuable horns and magic stones from both of the defeated rabbits drop to the ground. He catches his breath, completely amazed that he just defeated two monsters at once. But he quickly realizes that fighting with magic is much harder than he thought, feeling awkward and surprisingly tired. He also notices a frustrating delay of a few seconds between casting the spell and its activation. Feeling his focus begin to slip, he thinks he might need to take a quick break to recover. But just then, a brand new pair of killer rabbits appears. "Now of all times," he groans in frustration. He pushes through his exhaustion, determined to cast just one more fireball. But this time, something goes terribly wrong. A sharp, agonizing pain suddenly runs through his entire body. The world around him seems to distort as a powerful, unseen force hits him like a truck. A strange, weak little orb of fire sputters pathetically from his hand. He collapses to the ground, overcome by a wave of chills and nausea that he has never felt before in his life. The weak fireball misses the rabbits completely, and he clutches his head in absolute frustration. Suddenly, the river behind him erupts with a massive, deafening splash. Shouta turns around, stunned by the sudden and unexpected spray of water. The two killer rabbits are caught completely off guard by the mini tsunami his spell created. He realizes with a jolt that his stray fireball must have hit the river. This is his chance. He quickly runs in and defeats both rabbits while they are disoriented and vulnerable. A notification immediately announces that he has leveled up from 6 to 7. As his level increases, the horrible feeling of nausea finally begins to fade away. He stands up, still confused, realizing his last fireball was much smaller and weaker than the others. He connects the dots. The sickness must have been magical exhaustion caused by having low mana. He also makes a mental note that hitting the river with a fireball creates a powerful, strategic explosion. He files that useful piece of information away, thinking it could definitely be useful in the future. He thinks about the main problem. The frustrating casting delay makes the spell too slow in close-quarters combat. He realizes the solution. If he can predict when he'll need a fireball, he can cast it in advance. But that would require him to be able to predict the enemy's next move with perfect accuracy. He knows that after fighting a monster many times, you can learn its attack patterns and movements. However, fighting a brand new enemy is always a desperate and dangerous struggle. As he's deep in thought, a brilliant idea suddenly comes to him. He wonders if he can recreate what just happened. He checks his magic power and sees he has just enough for one more shot. He casts his 14th fireball, and the horrible, debilitating sickness immediately returns. He leans against a nearby rock, fighting through the intense discomfort with gritted teeth. He tells himself that he can keep going, and a bright flash of light signals his next level up. He has now advanced to level 8, and his mana is fully restored, causing the sickness to vanish instantly. But he knows he can't keep pushing himself like this, or he might break down mentally. He also imagines how unbelievably angry Maki would be if she ever found out he was being so reckless. After his risky test, he spends the rest of the day practicing, defeating dozens upon dozens of killer rabbits. Soon, his entire backpack is completely filled with valuable killer rabbit horns. After hours of hard work and grinding, a notification announces he has finally reached level 11, and he is overjoyed that he can finally roll the gacha. He notes that because killer rabbits are much tougher than goblins, they give significantly more experience. He pulls up his level gacha skill and eagerly presses the button for a full 10 pull. 10 capsules roll out. 6 rares, 3 super rares, and 1 shimmering, glorious purple S. Yes! He cheers, holding the purple capsule up to the light. There's a purple one! He opens the capsule and finds something completely and utterly unexpected inside. It's not an item or a stat boost, but a brand new Shuta stares at his status screen in a complete daze. His level has been reset to 1, but his stats have received massive permanent boosts. He focuses on the new skills icon, a single, stylized eye staring back at him. Remembering Maki's advice, he opens the dungeon communication app to get more information on his new prize. He reads the skill's description. It allows him to sense an opponent's most likely future action just before they make it. He scrolls down to the skill's estimated market value, and his jaw drops in utter disbelief. The number is so astronomically high that he quickly closes the app, pretending he never even saw it. He marvels at his own incredible luck, wondering if his 140 luck stat is responsible for this unbelievably perfect drop. He looks over his boosted stats again. Even at level 1, they are far beyond those of any beginner adventurer. He also realizes that he now possesses a large and incredibly varied collection of powerful skills. He glances at his gacha machine, concerned that he only has enough charges left for 1 more 10 pull. The display confirms his fear. Only 30 items are left in the entire prize box. He reflects on his insane progress. It's only been 3 days since he got this skill, and he's almost completely emptied the machine. Feeling his stats climb ever higher, he decides to go all out and finish his hunt for 100 killer rabbits. With a single powerful slash, he defeats his 100th killer rabbit, and a new, much larger monster appears in a flash of light. Sometime later, he breathes a huge sigh of relief. He somehow defeated the rare monster and leveled up all the way to 4. He earned 6 new skill points but decides to save them for later. Suddenly, he notices a strange wisp of smoke rising from where the monster died. The wisp of smoke suddenly zips away from him at an incredible, unbelievable speed. He's completely confused. The smoke is clearly heading towards a specific, unseen destination with a purpose. As he follows it, he sees goblins running away from the smoke in absolute primal terror. The smoke trail leads him to the edge of a dense, dark forest, an area he hasn't explored yet. He pushes through the thick undergrowth, finding it incredibly difficult to keep up with the fast-moving smoke. He finally breaks through a final wall of leaves and realizes with frustration that he's lost the trail. Frustrated, he remembers that the smoke was moving in a perfectly straight line the whole time. With a new plan in mind, he continues in the same direction, pushing deeper into the dark forest. After a few minutes of walking, he sees a clearing up ahead through the trees. A massive, terrifying killer rabbit is sitting peacefully in the middle of the clearing. Shuta stops dead in his tracks, completely awestruck. "Whoa, it is huge," he whispers to himself. The giant rabbit turns its head slowly, its eyes sharp and filled with a cold, terrifying intelligence. A jolt of pure fear runs through him, and he immediately activates his appraise skill. The results are absolutely terrifying. It's a level 20 murder rabbit with a skill called Quick Step. He's never heard of that skill before, but the name alone tells him that it's dangerously, inhumanly fast. Before he can even react, the murder rabbit vanishes in a complete blur of motion. It reappears instantly right behind him, and Shuta spins around yelling, "There you are!" He brings his sword up to block, but the rabbit is far too fast. He grits his teeth as he barely deflects the powerful attack. In a desperate last-second move, he parries the charge, managing to knock it slightly off course. He follows up instantly with a powerful, well-aimed kick to its side. The kick lands perfectly, sending the huge creature stumbling back. "Yes!" he shouts in triumph. He's managed to create some distance, but he knows the fight is far from over. He looks down in absolute horror. His iron longsword has been completely shattered by the force of the blow. He lets out a nervous laugh, realizing that if the claw had hit his unprotected flesh, he would have been killed instantly. He glances at the dense forest surrounding them, thinking he should probably try to run. He suddenly realizes his new foresight skill must have activated, giving him the split-second warning he needed to dodge. He admits to himself that without that incredible skill, he would already be dead. At this point, only one option makes any logical sense to him. He turns and bolts into the woods as fast as he can, yelling, He who runs away lives to fight another day. As the rabbit lets out a screech of pure rage, he shouts an apology over his shoulder, promising a rematch someday. He hears loud, splintering crashes coming from directly behind him as he runs. He glances over his shoulder and can't believe his eyes. You have got to be kidding me. The murder rabbit is smashing its way through the entire forest, plowing down trees as if they were nothing. It closes the distance in an instant, its massive form towering over him. He is completely trapped with nowhere to run. Shouta sprints desperately through the forest, but the giant murder rabbit is relentless, smashing through trees like a bulldozer. He grits his teeth, realizing that the monster is like a runaway train. It simply cannot be stopped. He knows that even if he managed to escape the woods, the rabbit would easily run him down in the open plains. His expression hardens with resolve. With his back against the wall, he has no choice left but to fight. With his only sword shattered, his only weapons are his magic and the random items in his backpack. He pulls out a sharp killer rabbit horn, and a desperate plan begins to form in his mind. He takes a moment to hide and check his map. The giant red dot is still wandering aimlessly in the forest. He wonders if the monster is trapped in the trees or if it can even sense him anymore. He immediately dismisses that thought. After he killed over 100 of its kind, he's certain it holds a personal grudge against him. He finds a small clearing, the perfect location for an ambush, and equips the killer rabbit horns like daggers. He takes a deep, calming breath. All that's left now is to wait for the perfect moment. Deciding to lure it out, he cups his hands around his mouth and shouts, "I am right here, big rabbit! Come and face me!" The murder rabbit lets out a furious, blood-curdling screech, and Shouta taunts it again, telling it to come at him. He watches the tree line intently as the loud, crashing sounds get closer and closer. As the beast bursts from the forest, Shouta is already in motion, unleashing a powerful, precast fireball. The murder rabbit charges straight forward, right into the path of his fiery attack. The fireball explodes on impact. Yes! Shouta cheers, his first strike landing perfectly as planned. He realizes that since it can only charge in a perfectly straight line, it's a surprisingly predictable target. But he knows that one single fireball won't be enough to take it down. With a confident smirk, he prepares his second weapon. "Eat this!" he yells, activating his throwing skill and launching a deadly volley of sharp rabbit horns. The horns fly like a storm of darts, embedding themselves deep in the monster's face and eyes. The giant rabbit stumbles back, roaring in pure agony from the unexpected attack. But it's still standing, its fury burning even hotter than before. Shouta grins wickedly, holding up another handful of horns and taunting the enraged beast. Enraged beyond reason, the murder rabbit lets out one final, piercing shriek of pain and fury. The massive creature finally collapses to the ground and vanishes in a brilliant, blinding flash of light. A massive notification appears. "Level up! Your level has risen from 4 to 25. And Shouta collapses to the ground, panting heavily. Lying there, completely wiped out, he admits to himself that it was the most nerve-wracking fight of his entire life. His body is so drained of energy that all he can think about is how badly he needs some sugar. His entire body is screaming from fatigue, but thanks to his high sturdiness stat, he doesn't have a single scratch on him. A sudden noise snaps him back to reality, and he reminds himself that he's still in a very dangerous dungeon. He realizes the area is eerily quiet now, but he knows this peace is only temporary. The other monsters had all fled in terror from the strange smoke that appeared earlier. Now that the rare monster is gone, this forest will soon become a monster paradise once again. He thinks back to the smoke, certain now that the monsters were truly and deeply afraid of it. His exhaustion almost made him completely forget his original purpose for following the smoke in the first place. He looks around, relieved to see that a second monster didn't appear after the first one died. Thank goodness, he sighs. He wonders why the smoke lingered for so long this time compared to the hobgoblins. He compares the level 20 murder rabbit to the level 10 hobgoblin and theorizes smoke's duration is related to the monster's level. He makes a mental note to bring a timer and test this theory the next time he summons a rare monster. For now, he appraises his loot: 2 twisted horns, a pelt, a medium magic stone, and a skill orb for quickstep. He looks at the skill orb, realizing it would make a rematch with a monster like that much easier. He pulls out his phone to check the skill's details and market value. He reads that Quickstep allows for movement at 3 times normal speed with a staggering market price of 60 million yen. He stares at the screen, completely shocked. This skill is even more valuable than super strength. A wide, triumphant smile spreads across his face. He knows this will definitely secure his exclusive contract with Maki. However, he hesitates for a moment. Facing another monster like that without this skill seems almost impossible. He sighs, feeling torn. Even with upgraded gear, he's not sure it would be enough to survive a second encounter. He decides not to overthink it for now. He has something much more exciting to do. His massive level up to 25 has given him enough points for 2 full 10 pulls on the gacha machine. With a wide, excited grin, he activates his level gacha skill, ready to see what fortune his high luck brings him this time.